Deuteronomy. Right. Most people, I think, they just go straight to the Ten Commandments. Like, that's it. That's Deuteronomy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the headliner,
But we're going deeper with this deep dive. You've given us these excerpts, Deuteronomio.pdf, which, by the way, it's a Spanish translation for anyone following along.
Right.
And it's clear there's a lot more to unpack here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's way more than just a list of rules, that's for sure. What we're really dealing with is Moses' farewell speech to the Israelites.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Imagine that, right?
They're heavy.
The weight of that moment.
Yeah.
An entire generation about to cross into the promised land.
Yeah.
This land their parents, had only dreamed of.
Yeah, they've been waiting, like 40 years in the desert for this?
Exactly, a lifetime.
So this is huge. This is like the culmination of everything.
Exactly.
But I gotta ask, why all the focus on their history? Like, didn't they live it?
See, that's the thing. This is a new generation. They hadn't personally experienced the exodus from Egypt.
Oh, okay.
So Moses, he recounts it all.
Smart.
The miracles, parting the Red Sea, that kind of thing.
Oh, right.
You've got divine interventions, the manna from heaven, water flowing from a rock. It's vivid, Like he really lays it out. And you can check it out yourself. Deuteronomy 4.3238, Deuteronomy 8.216.
Okay, so he's reminding them of God's power.
Yes.
His faithfulness. It's kind of like, don't forget who has your back, basically, right?
Yeah, like remember who you are and where you came from. But, and this is where it gets even more interesting, Moses doesn't shy away from their failings either.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He reminds them quite pointedly their doubts, their grumbling, straight-up rebellion sometimes.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
He called them out.
Oh, yeah. He calls them out. Deuteronomy 9.710, it's all right there.
So it's not just the highlight reel?
No. This is the full, this is the director's cut, the behind the scenes.
He's giving them the full picture.
Warts and all, human flaws, on full display.
Okay, so if I'm in the crowd there, I'm kind of like, why you gotta bring up that time we messed up with the golden calf, Moses? Like, come on. But seriously, why highlight their feelings at a moment like this? It's their big moment. They're about to go into the promised land. It'd be so easy to just paint a rosy picture.
Yeah, sure. But I think it speaks to the complexity of the human experience, even in the face of the divine. Yeah, they were chosen, but they were also, human. They made mistakes.
Right.
And despite those flaws, God never abandoned them.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful message of forgiveness and enduring love.
Wow.
And it brings us to the heart of why Moses delivers this message. Deuteronomy 4.1-2, he makes it clear. This is about reminding this new generation about the covenant they have with God.
The covenant. This covenant thing, it's like a big deal, right?
It's a huge deal.
But what did it actually look like, in practice?
Right, it is an agreement. Well, not just any agreement.
Yeah.
This is like binding contract stuff.
Whoa.
Sacred promise between God and the Israelites. Yeah. And at the core of that promise, it's a set of principles. Yeah. Like a way of life that would set them apart.
So that's where, the famous 10 Commandments come in, right?
Again, Deuteronomy chapter 5. It reiterates those commandments almost word for word.
Oh, wow.
And that's important. It's like Moses is saying, look, this isn't just your parents' rule book. This is the foundation of who you are.
This is how we do things around here.
Exactly. Blueprint for a life that honors God.
Okay, so I get that they're important, obviously, but the 10 Commandments, they're not just about, rituals or offerings, right? It's about how you treat other people.
Exactly. That is key. It's about building a just and compassionate society, recognizing that every person, it's like they're imprinted with the image of God,
Wow. So follow the rules, build a good society, everybody wins.
That was the idea. And Deuteronomy 7.1-15, it lays it all out, all the blessings.
Like what?
Abundance, protection, prosperity, the works, the powerful motivator.
Okay, but then there's Deuteronomy 28, and whoa, things take a turn.
No kidding.
Talk about consequences.
Yeah, no, it's like intense is an understatement. The language is so stark, you cannot miss it. It's famine, disease, defeat, even exile from the promised land.
So the opposite of the blessing.
Exactly. It's presented as a natural consequence. Like, hey, this is what happens when...
It's your choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like a universal law, like gravity. Gravity's not out to get you.
But it's there. And if you jump off a cliff, it's not gravity's fault.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're talking about these rules, blessings, curses. It's easy to forget that these are real people dealing with real stuff,
Absolutely. And that's why I think it's so important that we look at a specific story.
Okay.
One that gives us a glimpse into what was going on back then.
A specific story, like a story about someone from that time.
Yeah, exactly. Deuteronomy, it's not all, pronouncements from on high.
Yeah.
There are these narratives woven in.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And one that comes to mind, it's a bit of a tough one, honestly, but it's in Deuteronomy 22.1321. It's the story of the unfaithful wife.
Okay.
And it really gets at their social dynamics, legal stuff, how things worked back then.
So paint the picture for our listener. What's going on in this story?
So we've got a husband, right? And he accuses his wife of, well, not being a virgin when they got married.
Oh, wow. Okay, so right off the bat, that's a heavy accusation. Huge. And he claims to have evidence. And this whole thing, it goes before the elders of the city. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, talk about taking it to court, right?
Right. It's a whole trial. And this is where it gets really interesting, but also kind of messed up. The text, it focuses almost entirely on proving or disproving the woman's innocence. Like, her word alone, it's not enough. There's this almost forensic focus on physical proof.
Wow, that's intense.
It is. And the consequences, if that proof wasn't there, they were brutal. We're talking like stoning to death.
Whoa.
Which, tells us a lot about how important female virginity was back then. It was tied up with a woman's value, her place in society.
Yeah, it makes you realize how far we've come, at least, in many parts of the world, to recognize that women have inherent dignity no matter what. Exactly. But, and I know this story is hard to hear, it connects back to what we were talking about before. Remember, the covenant was about building a just and stable society.
Right.
And back then, a woman's virginity, it was seen as directly tied to all of that. Lineage, inheritance, the whole social order.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense in the context of the time, I guess, but it's still a lot to process. So these laws, these stories, they're so specific to that time and place. Why do you think Deuteronomy still resonates with people thousands of years later?
That is the question, isn't it? It's like, what are we supposed to take away from all of this? And for me, it goes back to that idea of choosing life that we find in Deuteronomy 30.19. It's like this timeless call to action. We have a choice to make every day between right and wrong, between actions that lead to life and those that will don't.
It's like this blueprint for living, not just in ancient Israel, but like now, today.
Exactly. It's about being better, making choices that benefit everyone. It transcends time and culture,
Absolutely. And it's wild to think about the impact this one book has had. Legal systems, morals, even today, social justice movements, it all traces back to Deuteronomy.
It's the power of ideas, how they can challenge us, inspire us, even across millennia.
And that brings us to the end of our Deuteronomy deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. The book, it ends with Moses' death, right? And it's kind of tragic. He leads them all the way to the edge of the promised land, but he never gets to set foot in it himself. So I'm asking you, dear listener, why do you think the book ends that way? What might that signify for us? We're all on our own journeys, right? All searching for our own promised lands, whatever that looks like for you. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.